Hello everybody, welcome to today's Daily Devotional. So our Daily Devotional today is coming from Matthew chapter 22, the first 10 or 11, 12 verses, the parable of the wedding feast. And it's going to be a short devotional today. I'm just going to read this and notice what Jesus says at the very end as a reminder for us to where our focus needs to be. And Jesus answered and spoke to them again by parables, and said, "The kingdom of heaven is like a certain king, who arranged a marriage for his son, sent out his servants to call those who were invited to the wedding, and they were not willing to come. Again he sent out other servants, saying, 'Tell those who are invited, see, I prepared my dinner. My oxen and fatted cattle are killed, and all things are ready. Come to the wedding.' But they made light of it and went their ways, one to his own farm, and another to his business. And the rest seized his servants, treated them spitefully, and killed them. But when the king heard about it, he was furious, and he sent out his armies, destroyed those murderers, and burned up their city. And then he said to his servants, 'The wedding is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy. Therefore go into the highways, and as many as you find, invite to the wedding.' So those servants went out to the highways and gathered together all whom they found, both bad and good, and the wedding hall was filled with guests." So notice, obviously, there's a lot of symbolism, I guess you could say. The references that Jesus is making, obviously, to the Jews, how that God sent prophets to them to warn them about what they were doing. He sent them away into captivity, first Israel and then Judah. And ultimately, now the gospel is being spread to the Gentiles. And here in verse 10, or verse 11 rather, when the king came in to see the guests, he saw a man there who did not have on a wedding garment. So he said to him, "Friend, how did you come in here without a wedding garment?" And he was speechless. And then the king said to the servants, "Bind him hand and foot, take him away and cast him into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." So notice how that the servants were instructed to go out everywhere to the highways, get the good, the bad, whoever, bring them to the feast. But only those who were prepared were allowed to come in. In fact, the king, he says, "How did you come in here without a wedding garment?" And the man was speechless. And so the king says, "Nope, that's no good." And so he casts him out. And Jesus says in verse 14, "For many are called, but few are chosen." And it's important to remember kind of what the point of this parable is, and the importance of what Jesus says here. Many are called, but few are chosen. Has nothing to do with the Lord being arbitrary in his choices or in his choosing of individuals. It's not he chooses certain individuals simply because he likes them as opposed to some others. We find throughout the New Testament, and for that matter in the Old Testament, God is not a respecter of persons. God doesn't care from what background you come. He doesn't care. And it's a Old Testament from the perspective of all souls. God considers all souls. Obviously, there was a difference according to the law, the Jew versus the Gentile. And then in the New Testament, that difference is taken away. But God isn't arbitrary in his choices, and he doesn't choose people specifically to be chosen for salvation for no reason. Okay, as if there's nothing I can do to either be saved or not be saved. God simply chooses. It's also known as predestination. But what Jesus describes here, notice in verse 14, "For many are called, but few are chosen," which is to say, where's your wedding garment? You were supposed to have a wedding garment on, and you don't have a wedding garment. Many are called, good and bad, but few are chosen. Well, what's the qualification of an individual who is going to be chosen to be allowed to enter into the kingdom of heaven? It's the individual who's prepared, the individual who has a, quote, wedding garment, or one who has prepared themselves by faithfully obeying the Lord, doing what he tells us to do. And the importance of recognizing many are called. The gospel call goes out to everyone. But few are chosen. Well, what prevents some from being chosen? Well, in this particular situation, this individual thought that they would be perfectly fine without a wedding garment. And the king says, that's not how this works. There are conditions that must be met for you to enter into the feast, into the wedding party. And this man or this individual did not meet those qualifications, meet those conditions. And while salvation is the gift of God through his Son, it is a conditional gift. God's love was unconditional and is unconditional. God's love sent his Son to die for us while we were yet sinners. That is unconditional love. But the salvation from that love is conditional. It's conditioned upon whether or not we are prepared. All right, that's the daily devotional for you today. Lord willing, our next daily devotional will be Monday at 6:30. That'll be our plan. I hope to see you all then. Thanks, everybody.